Homeowners, contractors, listen up. When it comes to building smart and saving big, there's only one place to start. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices. 20% off all day, every day. That's right. At Builders Paradise, you get everyday low prices. Not sometimes, not special days, but all day, every day. From doors and windows, paints and tiles, plumbing and electrical fixtures. Everything you need to build, upgrade, or renovate. So when you're building up and saving smart, start right from the very beginning. Builders Paradise. 20% off all day, every day. Where you're shopping, Builders Paradise. While you're saving, everyday low prices. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices, 20% off all day, every day. Builders Paradise. Saving sweet all day, every day.
Everyday low prices.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I am Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we are here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized and you're getting on the show. You take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Also, you can follow the live video stream of this program on our YouTube channel in Vaughan Radio and our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. Tonight, Conrad Nyan Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and once again a pleasant good evening to your staff, hard-working staff here at the Powerhouse, and to my colleague, Mr. Fifield. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And my friends in the international circle, certainly. I'm back. I was absent last week, and so I'm back, and I welcome you guys, my friends in Toronto, my friends in Connecticut, my friends in Florida. Good evening. Webbo, I'm happy to be here once again, being a part of this conversation, which you know I awfully enjoy. And I suppose we are going through a period of uncertainty with the weather. I suppose this weekend was a weekend that was remind me of a small hurricane, certainly very, very windy, and we are experiencing extreme heat also. And of course we had that tremor yesterday, I think it was on a Saturday, but it still remained a very beautiful place to be here in Nevis. It's actually paradise, and of course I would welcome every Nevisian to return home to this beautiful place and participate in the growth and development of the country, and certainly to be part of the conversation which is uppermost in our mind, the development of Nevis, and of course improve relationship with our sister island of St. Kitts, and all the good qualities that we tend to look forward to in a democracy. So, Webbo, I must say I'm happy to be here once again, and I look forward to a good discussion this evening.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, Conrad, and of course good evening to all those who are listening and viewing via the various mediums. But I would like to say a special good night to all those who are celebrating a birthday anniversary. We hope that you're having a wonderful time. To those who are bereaved, their family, we say sympathy to them, and stay strong. God would see you through. Those who are in the hospital, we pray that you would recover the soonest, and you would be back home with your friends and family. Webbo, of course, this evening I encourage persons to call in, as it is an interactive program. We can learn something from you, and you can learn something from us. And of course, I am looking forward for a fruitful discussion, Webbo. Webbo, if I can probably lead out with some sporting activities that were held over the weekend. We had a number of activities. We had the Masters, Leeward Islands Masters Cricket Tournament that was held here over the weekend, and I think that it was a success. I was able to drop in on a few of the matches. The semi-finals in Brownhill had a really nice crowd. I think that it was Sinkits versus Nevis at that particular venue on Sunday morning, and Sinkits came out victorious. And simultaneously in the park, I think it was Antigua versus St. Thomas. The crowd there was much smaller, and then of course in the afternoon we had Antigua who came up against Sinkits, and it was a really bumper crowd in my opinion. And Antigua, yet again, they were victorious. They won last year and they won again this year, so congratulations to Antigua. I want to say congratulations to all of the organizers. I think that it was a really good event. For persons who are a little older, I think it was 40 plus. They could have some, competitive cricket, and I think that is really good. Well, there was also the jag race, the big jag race. I think that we would have heard, on the media that there was some 31 or 30 plus vehicles that came into Nevis to take part in the jag racing competition that they had there over the weekend at the St. James's Raceway. And Webbo, Sunday's crowd, it was really a mammoth crowd. I think that it was just as big or even bigger than when the jag race was held the first time. It might have been way back in 2008. It was really that big. You had vehicles, went all the way back to Eden Brown and went as far on the other side up to New River area. Lots of vehicles, lots of persons, and it was a good meet too as well, Webbo. Webbo, I also want to touch on the hit and run competition that concluded on Sunday. And I want to say a special good evening to Mr. Trevor Sutton and his entire team. It was a really wonderful tournament. It was a modified tournament, Webbo, in that it was 7-a-side, 7 players and 7 overs, and they had what they called the super over with the yellow ball. It was a tape ball competition, and in that yellow ball, if I can just explain how I understand it, Webbo, once you score any run off the bat with the yellow ball, the run would actually double. So for instance, if you knock a 4, you would actually get 8. If you run 1 run, you would actually get 2 once it comes off the bat. Of course, the rules, there were no leg befores, but you could have run bys. And also, it was strictly 6 deliveries. Doesn't matter if you bowl a wide or a no ball. If you bowl a no ball, it is automatically 6 runs. If you bowl a wide, it would go to 4. But back to the super over, if a wicket is taken during the super over, your team would actually get a deduction of 4 runs each time, or each wicket that falls within that super over, that yellow ball. I believe that it's really a good invention, Webbo. I must say kudos again to Trevi and his entire team. I would suggest to Mr. Smitten that he should try to file for some patent. I think that this is something that could catch on, in St. Kitts Nevis, and I dare say the vision, and of course, he could probably gain some royalty somewhere down the line. So once again, Chevia, Mr. Smitten, kudos to you and the entire team. The closing ceremony, Webbo, I think it was rather impressive. When we look at international cricket and they're having their after the game, and when they're having the man of the match and stuff like that, Webbo, you have this backdrop. They had one, and it was really, 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 really nice. It was a sight to behold. And I want to say, I don't know who the sponsors are, but I want to thank them for coming on board, Webbo, because I'm sure without them it would not have been the success that it was, Webbo.
Just to ask a few questions about them. So it's a local invention. What do you call it again?
Hit and run tournament.
The hit and run tournament. How many teams participated?
I think that it was just about maybe around 8 to 10 teams.
And is it like a limited over?
Yes, 7 overs per side.
7 overs.
7 overs per side, and 7 players. And I must say congratulations to the panel team. They were victorious. They played in the finals against Villa United. And my team, Zion Thunders, we played in the finals. We lost to the Villa United. And, we didn't have a chance. We also played in the playoff for third competition, and we lost. So we eventually came fourth.
So the yellow ball, is made of what?
It's the balls are wind balls, and they are taped. The regular ball, so to speak, is taped with white tape, and the yellow ball, the
so
batting
tennis
team.
ball that are taped.
Yes,
with tape.
yes.
Yeah.
So it make it more hard, and it could travel through the air faster than the beer tennis ball, so to speak. Yeah.
That's interesting. And this is the first year that was.
Yes, the first year, and the crowd there too. That was a real bumper crowd.
Where it was played?
Hard Times, at the Hard Times playing field.
Okay.
All the games were played there.
And so it took 1 day to go through all the games. How many teams participated, you said, sorry?
I think it was about 8 to 10 teams.
Okay.
Yeah, they started, I think, just around 1 o'clock yesterday.
Okay.
Monday being a holiday, and there were 2 semi-final matches. Two semi-final matches, a player for third position, and the final. So there were 4 games. And then after that, there was an exhibition game between the Joycelyn Libert Primary and the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School, and Joycelyn Libert, won that particular match. And they also had, for every one-hand catch anybody in the crowd, took, I think they got a reward, a monetary reward. So there were incentives. They had raffles and stuff like that. They had bowl-offs and stuff like that during the tournament. And I think that it was a really good invention. I really enjoyed it. I spent most of my Sundays there, having a really good time.
That sounds great. Was it organized by a particular club?
I don't think it's a club. It's Mr. Smitten, Chevia Smitten. Chevia is from the Rollins area. He would have played cricket for the Nevis senior cricket team, some years ago. I think he was an off spinner, and he's the one that is, from my understanding, he's the brainchild. But he had tremendous support from persons in the community, both males and females.
So that version of cricket is called hit and run.
Hit and run,
meaning that every time you hit the ball, you have to run.
No. I think it's just maybe a catchy name, so to speak,
Okay.
hit and run. But of course, it's not like when we play cricket, bat and ball back then, and you used to be playing every lash 1 or every lash 2.
Okay.
That when you hit the ball, you must run a run, whether you go straight back to the ball or not. Or you
So
must
you don't-
attempt a run.
You don't play in pads and fingertips and.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think the ball hit that hard, so to speak.
And the bats are the regular cricket bats, or
The regular wind ball cricket bat.
Okay.
The regular wind ball cricket bats.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. And you say it was a bumper crowd, so obviously it was a place to be.
Of course.
This weekend for me, I was invited to the African Liberation Day celebration in Newcastle, held by the One Love Rastafari movement. It was a great. It was a very good program. I tremendously enjoy it. It was the 39th African Liberation Day.
Wow.
Held on Nevis. I happens to be the one who had the first one in 1987 back in Charlestown, and I think this one was very good. Was very good. The atmosphere was very good. They had people, brethren came over and sisterins came over from St. Kitts. They have had people from the Reparation Committee from St. Kitts, and Ira himself, who was the main organizer, is a part of that committee. I think he's the chairperson of that committee. I think it was a very good event, a great occasion. There was a lot to learn and to be aware of in terms of our African history and knowledge. Mention was made of martyrs, people who have laid down their life for the freedom of black people. And it was basically an Africa-orientated activity, occasion, and of course the majority of people was Rastafarians. It was well attended. It really was a good occasion. It was held on the 25th. It was the actual day that it was mentioned when in Ethiopia, when His Imperial Majesty asked for the celebration on the 25th of May. That was back in 1963, and here in Nevis we had our first one in 1987. I was the one who organized that, so it was really a good gathering, and so that kind of capped my weekend. Apart from that, I was very busy.
So
usually, as usual.
If I may ask, what that particular event, what it entails?
African Liberation Day is a day when we remember our martyrs. We advance the cause of Africa. We speak to the liberation and emancipation of the black race, and it's a day where we try to decolonize the minds of the people, looking at the various our lifestyle in generally, and see how much colonialism has affected us and how far we have drifted from it. We're looking at independence of the islands, so it was political, social, cultural, African liberation. Well, you should have known that, as a black man, I mean.
No, what
African Liberation Day is an international event. It's been there is usually an event at the University of West Indies in a big way, and of course, again, it is mostly celebrated throughout the Caribbean by the Rastafarians, really. But it is an international known event. But of course, because of the system in which we live, we are oftenly, told not to really uphold anything that remind us of our motherland from whence we came. Of course, when we speak of African Liberation Day, the whole idea of slavery and what they have done to the people is front and center. It's really the black struggle, and as I say, commemorating, paying homage to those who have fought for our liberation, people like Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko, Marcus Garvey, George William Garden, Paul Bogle, so many martyrs actually, who have fought and basically give their life, Dr. Martin Luther King, for the betterment of black people internationally.
Right. So what the question that I really wanted to know is, like, was it in like maybe a concert format? Maybe I'm chanting, singing, pounding of drums.
Well, all that. There was it was held from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. and I think the official program started around 4:30, and that ran for about 2 hours, where there was speeches, there was singing, there was drumming, there was no dancers there, but people contributing, in whatever way, in an organized way, As I say, it was good. I mean, back when it was done by me, I did it from 1987 to 1997. It was a much bigger event because we were. I invited everyone, the churches, the sixth formers, the politicians from the government, politicians from the opposition, the Rastafarians, and everybody, I try to be inclusive, because it's not just a Rastafarian event, it's not a Rastafari event, but usually it's been held under the auspices of Rasta people, put it that way. Rasta people usually the organizers, but it's and so yesterday's event was also, across the board, put it that way. It was not just Rasta people, and educators was there, and as I said, people from the government of St. Kitts. I'm surprised nobody from the government of Nevis was there, not even people, the politicians, or a politician, but that's how they do it sometimes, really. But to me, it's an important event, because too often we just live our life not remembering where we actually came from, and who have really put their life on the line for us, when you see somebody like Nelson Mandela, who have spent 27 years in prison, it's no easy thing to think about, to be quite honest with you. When I listened to an interview from him, he said that he like everyone else, he wished that he didn't have to go to prison, for 27 years.
It's a long time.
When we look, even the Buckley's uprising, that must be remembered when we speak of African Liberation Day. Even just a couple of weeks ago, we had Labor Day, the contribution of the workers, to the growth of the economy. Labor Day also represent, must, bring in focus the conditions of the workers, and I suppose that was the reason for the Buckley's uprising. That was the reason for the Berbice Rebellion in Guyana, the Mount Bay Rebellion in Jamaica, that led to the hanging of George William Garden and Paul Bogle in Jamaica. And black people has been through a lot. And we must not really forget that, because in these days what we realize too, there are people who are coming back who are posing as investors, and they are really coming to take what we have worked hard, the freedom we have worked hard to gain, and our foreparents, come on, we just really coming off the plantation, let's don't forget that. And when you look around us, you can see in every respect so much things that remind us of our days on the plantation. We spent over 450 years on the plantation, man, you know what I mean? And everything was geared towards stripping us of our culture, you know, changing our name, our religion, our perspective to life, the communality that Africans know, into a capitalistic mindset, you know, and so, you know, it's a lot to deal with when we're talking about decolonization, you know, of a people's mind, decolonization of a place. At the same time, we still got to take it step by step, because, you know, but it's really about the mental condition and the mental mindset of the people, because, you know, some have said that the revolution won't be televised, and that simply means that it's something that goes on the inside to start with, you know, and then it's obviously going to come to the forefront in a sense. So this consciousness that we're talking about, this black consciousness, not meaning that we are racist and only think about black people, you know what I'm saying? But I think black people have truly lost their self-esteem at times. You see much people go out there and bleach themselves. Just the other day, a lady asked me, now I tell the truth, do you prefer a dark-skinned girl or a light-skinned girl? And it's like, wow, you know, to be asked this question in these times is a very serious thing. No, I'm not a guy who is racist at all, you know what I mean? In fact, throughout my life, I always would have liked to have kids with all different races, and that may sound a little out of sync with what you know, when we think of the culture in which we are born and raised, you know, a certain expectation, because I believe in people, you know, and I think if you could not have mixed, then you wouldn't have been able to mix, you know what I'm saying? The fact that you can mix, then you, to me, there's that right to mix, you know. Some may feel very different about that, you know what I mean? But when we're dealing with black people now, you know, I've been out with African people and African girls, and to be quite honest with you, it's amazing the way they think about their own color, you know, and how much they gravitate towards getting a child of a higher, what we call a higher complexion. You know, this comes from the days of slavery, simply because back in the days of slavery, your complexion, if you are more fair-skinned, you're treated better on the plantation. You might be a domestic slave, or you might be a mulatto or cross between a white and a black, and then you may have entitlement to education, you know, and that might reflect your social standing, your economic standing, you know. And so them things have passed down into these times. And we're working hard for it to be eliminated, to be quite honest with you, because we believe in equality and we believe in equal opportunity regardless of what, you know. I mean, again, when we look at African Liberation Day, we see the great desire at this point for the superpowers to conquer Africa again. We see the war between China to get into Africa. We see the war with Russia to get into Africa, you know. France was just thrown out of Mali, and the Mali people tend to lean more now towards Russia. But now France now make a new proposal to Kenya, you know, in a big way. And the Prime Minister, the President, whoever he is of France, up there playing little ting-a-ling-ling drum with black people. You know, it just looks so blatant. Like, you know, they can't just leave us alone simply because we got the resources. You know, in Africa you find everything they need for their the AI and the AI and the you know, the advanced technology, you know, and so they have to apply themselves and to make friends in, you know, inverted commas and so forth. So I think not just, you know, Africans home and abroad, because we are Africans, should be aware as to where we are, where we stand in the struggle, and to be more forthcoming in terms of raising the consciousness, in terms of promoting, you know, our story, you know, because our story is completely different to the history that they have taught us. you know, and because I'm not sure if you're aware that just yesterday or day before yesterday, the first flight from West Africa arrived into Barbados, you know, and there was 208 people on board. And I think that flight is scheduled to be once a month. And once the link between West Africa and the Caribbean becomes more regular, more relevant, maybe some form of trade or whatever, journey, of course, would be more useful, you know. And of course, it will be more than once a month that the plane make that stop from West Africa to the Caribbean. And as I said, the leaders are trying to reach out, and I do think deep about it, and I wonder, trade between the Caribbean and Africa, that's a tough one, you know. Exchange of services, you know, financial. I think banks in Africa are financing, you know, countries in the Caribbean today, you know, which is a good thing. But in terms of trade, you know, I mean, China seems to get, its hands and foot into the Caribbean, even into the world, even keeping out America in a big way. But whatever link we can make, you know, whatever, reach out we can establish, it's very important. And I find what the governments of the Caribbean also should do, and the governments of Africa, they should think in terms of scholarship, you know, for Caribbean people to go to. They got some big universities in Africa.
But there have been, you know, some scholarships, you know, Moroccan scholarship. I have a cousin that is actually in Morocco studying as we speak.
That's beautiful.
You know, so there are some sort of scholarship for parts of Africa.
That's beautiful.
Like, I think Bob Marley sang a song in parts where he said that we are mentally enslaved. I don't know your thoughts, if you think that we are actually mentally enslaved, and if so, how much so?
Mentally enslaved?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, emancipate yourself from that. Mentally, yes, of course. You know, we've been, from a religious standpoint of view. And basically, it's the same things I'm talking about here. You know, we see, look how much girls out there we see, and man, not just woman, man too, bleaching out them skin. You understand?
Well, it is the style, is it the fashion?
I don't know what it is. Well, it's a lack of pride. You know,
self-confidence.
It's a disrespect to God Almighty, who have made you a particular complexion. You know what I mean? But it's an easier way from those who are doing it to get along in the world. It's an easier way to get along in the world, in this world where it seems like the brighter your complexion is, the more you are listened to, the better the opportunity is. Maybe even to get a job, you know, or maybe even to find someone to love you.
And you know, realize the enslaved mentality.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You know, I mean, the systems are there, man. Okay, look at the law profession. The law profession, to me, is the most colonial profession. Of course, we study common law, you know, which is British law. And, of course, you know, sometimes the lawyers have to put on a wig, a white wig, you know, as if the white wig make them be more better thinkers.
And the judges.
You know, I mean, you go to the court, you got to bow and say, God save the Queen. You know, God save the King. You understand? The same set of people who have enslaved us and robbed us and cheat us and thief us, you know, exploit us, you know, we still yield to that, you know, and that is the law profession. But you know, and sometimes when I go to court, I say, I study law, I say, well, me can't go to them thing there, you know, even with the politician, when they're sworn in, what they do say? They say we swear to uphold and something
the king now.
The king and his heirs and all these type of stuff and successors. You know, I mean, it's tough to be really saying that in these times. You know, I mean, your people been suffering all these centuries.
I think some countries have moved away slightly from it, don't they, you know? I believe that I listened some of the swearing in of the ministers in Antigua, and I believe that they have diverted somewhat from that.
Well, the consciousness would grow, but it's taking too long sometimes. The consciousness will grow. I want to know if they're going to not swear you in if you decide not to say that.
And
know?
some ministers who are Christian minded, are profess Christianity, I think they use the term affirm instead of swear.
Okay, well, swear and affirm can be the same sometime, but it's you know, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. It's a serious request. You know, that every black man should really take upon themselves in a very serious way. You know, we are brainwashed. We are brainwashed. You know, and when I say we speaking generally,
broad.
You know, I mean, it's just the other day, our people can go to Four Seasons with braided hair.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's just the other day. Dreadlocks people can play sports. You know how many
Yes.
sportsmen I know who actually had to drop out of cricket.
Furble comes to mind.
You know,
Earl
because of their hair. You know, I went to sixth form and I never heard my name on the register for 2 years.
Wow.
32 of us in the class, and I never even had locks. They say I look different. You know, and how I walk different, so I shouldn't be in the school.
Wow.
You know, yes, you know, this is I'm dead serious. For 2 years, I went to the Charlestown sixth form, and they refused to call my name on the register. You know, I was like permanently expelled from school. But then I know I had the right to be in school because education is a human right. You know. And I always tip my hat to Miss Nichols.
Yes.
She was the education officer. She
everything.
insists that I go to school, and because she insists, the people who are running the school, their reaction to me was never call his name on the register.
Wow. I've
Never
heard
call
of
his name
something
on the
like that.
register. You know, and I always say that, you know, but look how many people suffer simply because now you see the kids going to school. Now all the girls them have dreadlocks.
Yes.
Eh?
It's a style now.
All the girls have dreadlocks. I had a kid, they never let him into school. They never let it. I was going to take the government to court. Mark Ranty was my lawyer, you know, against the CCM administration, you know, because we just couldn't understand why are you not letting the young kid into school because he have dreadlocks. He has that right. It's an education, you know. And it was the education minister from St. Kitts, the federal education minister. I forget Herbert, I think, was his name. You know, he came to Nevis and said, "Look, let that young man go to school. His parents are dead serious about him going to school." You know, and so they give him. They let my kids, and of course they treat him terrible in school. The kids never, the teachers never care about the way the other kids dealt with him. You know, so we are mixed up in a lot of self degradation and self false pride. I don't know what it is. We regret when we look into the mirror. We regret what we see in a general sense. You know, I mean, look at all the faults here. Only black people are here. You know, massive industry. You know, massive industry. And what I want straight here, they want Indian looking here. The Indian people cutting off the hair and giving them to black people to stick onto their head. You understand? So, but that's how it go. You know, we like to see them sometime too. They look good sometimes if it's fashion. You know what I'm saying? You know, black people was always an adaptable people to fashion. Black people always, historically, always paint up their face nicely and do things with their bodies still, you know, in terms of, you know, I mean, physical appearance to look more or less attractive, whatever. but the consciousness, you know, we would like to see that happen from up there, people in government, you know, decolonizing the people's mind, decolonizing even their policies. You know, you got places in Africa today that every youth still, in Kenya, have to trim their hair when they go to school. Every youth have to shine up. Girls and boys, you don't know the difference. Girls and boys have their hair.
My question has always been, you know, if I'm a Rasta and I profess Rasta, I probably do all the things that Rastas do. And what's the difference would be whether I have locks and or not? Meaning, if I'm a school child and I am bad from school, well, it's that is out the window. But I'm saying, if I'm a school child and I'm bad from school, you know, what is the real reason? Is it because of the length of my hair? Is it the style of my hair? And if I were to cut my hair, wouldn't I have the same mindset as a Rasta? Would that take away the Rastafarianism in me?
No, it would not. But you know, you see, your hair is very somehow it represents something. You know, back in the days, you know, the first thing, if somebody wants to make you feel down, they cut off all your hair. You know, it's something they do.
From the Bible,
you know, in prison, and they would say for health reasons sometimes. But you know, to embarrass an individual back in the days, you know, you hold him and cut off all his hair sometimes, you know.
But
you know, but the answer to your question, no, you really doesn't have to have dreadlocks to be a Rastafarian at all. You know what I mean. But to be a Rastafarian, you have adapt a kind. You're seeking to be free. You know, you're seeking to be free, and to be able to grow your hair in the fashion which you want to do is a reflection of that personal freedom. You know, that you can have. You know what I mean? Because it's not really immoral. You know. It's a personal thing, and black people always, you know, black people here grippy, you know. Black people here hard to comb. Some people can only brush their hair, you know. They just can't comb their hair.
The problem is some piggy weary. You know,
yeah, man, some curly, some hard stuff, little round up thing, you know what I mean? Pants some people here.
But now, can I be a Rasta with dreadlocks and eat meat?
Yes.
Providing that is not a health issue.
Well, look. You know, most Rastafarians are vegetarians. Let me tell you straight up. You know, when I was young, I used to be in England. I used to be part of the 12th tribe, because there's a branch of Rasta people called 12 tribes. Mm-hmm. There's some called Bobo Jed. There's some called Nyabingi.
The Bobo Jed is the Tiklaks. Is it Tiklaks, that cladding one, the Bobo Jed?
Well, I don't know.
No, I'm just asking.
But it's hard for me to just say that, you know what I mean? Because some people have Tiklaks, whatever. Depends on the nature of the hair and how they want to carry the hair. But I used to be part of the 12th tribe of Israel, you know, and I could remember going to meetings. And at the meetings, they would serve lamb, you know. Them times they were young, I'm not even 20 years old yet, you know. Lamb. Mm-hmm. But them time I'm already a vegetarian, so I say, oh, I not eat no lamb. you know, but I mean, you can't take it from them. I mean, who's me to judge people, man? You know, I don't judge people. You know what I mean? Once you're not doing anything that affect me, you know, I don't judge people. You know what I mean? You can eat what you want, but most Rastafarians are vegetarians. Are people who don't eat meat. And no flesh at all. I know Rastafarians that eat fish, you know. I eat fish myself. You know, I know Rastafarians that does not eat fish, you know. You know, I know Rastafarians that eat meat, you know, eat lamb, you understand? Mm-hmm. Eat chicken, but I don't know any of them that eat pork.
Now, barring health issues, if you're to be a Rasta, you have to smoke, barring health issues.
Oh, not at all. I know many Rastafarians.
No, the reason I'm sure you know persons are learning a lot from this discussion.
Oh, come on, they should don't know these things long time. But what I'm trying to say is, no, I know many Rastas who don't smoke. you know, who never smoke. I know Rastas who smoke and quit smoking. You know, you don't have to smoke. And a lot of people always think the minute they say Rasta, they say herb and smoking. You know, it's not like that at all. Rasta is just like everyday people in every respect. You know, I mean, you know, the using of the herb, of course, is something that they do, you know, for religious reasons and for social reasons, you know, and for other reasons too, I suppose. But I mean, I know numerous Rastas who don't smoke, numerous Rasta women who doesn't smoke at all, actually, you know. That is not a requirement. I mean, some don't smoke, some of them don't even drink the herb as tea, you know what I mean. So that's just the system that really, you know, once they say Rasta, they say herb, because the system is more interested in herb than even Rastas, you know.
But I think
because they're more in need of the herb than Rastas, you know, because they want to make money from it too. You understand? And they probably need to get some benefits from it. You know, Rastas doesn't really have a big problem with herbs and so forth. That, you know, what the public may think and what the governments and so may the big hype around it is not really, you know what I mean. If you look around town, you see, you know, for the youth them who always on the street and smoke and so forth, they're not really Rastas.
Yes.
You know, they're just, you know, users of the herbs, you
Yes,
know, and
I totally
smoking,
agree.
the use of all kind of things sometimes, you know. I mean, they're not really Rastas, because I know
And probably-
many Rastas don't like to smoke in the public.
and probably that because, you know, we associate smoking, you know, maybe unfairly with Rastas, maybe that is putting a bad name on Rastas. Perhaps. You know, I'm bald-head, so to speak, coming out in public and smoke. Because I would have said on the radio station here a few weeks ago that when I go through town, I hardly see Rastas in town smoking, but I would see other persons who do not have locks, who are not Rastas, smoking in town.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. Smoking to a certain extent has always been a kind of private thing for Rasta people, you know. One of the things is influenced because of the fact that it was illegal, and we are, you know, always have to hide from people and hide from the police. So it becomes a kind of a thing where you're in private, and of course, one, you don't want to affect no one. You know, those who don't like to smell herb or you don't want to. I mean, one of the most uncomfortable thing is to be smoking next to someone who is uncomfortable because you're smoking. You know. And so, you know, you tend to kind of be private with that, you know.
What I would have heard to Naya is that Rastas smoke to meditate. So, if Rastas smoke to meditate, I'm not sure if they could meditate, you know, amongst so many persons in the public. They normally, I suspect that is one of the reasons they would normally go by themselves and smoke, so they could meditate.
Thing. Yeah, no, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. It's kind of a kind of private kind of thing, to be quite honest. You know, for Rasta people, you know, I mean, because sometimes you smoke and you become quiet. You know, you get into whatever you're into more. You know, and there are times when there's some who smoke and just want to be very much loud and you know, and all over the place and laughing and giggling and so forth. You know what I mean?
A different type of high.
A different type of what I can say. You know, reality. You know what I mean? But yeah, but back to the you know the consciousness that we've been talking about, the African Liberation Day thing and the colonialism thing. You know, the state of mind of black people, in a general sense.
Just allow me to cut you off. Since we're going back to that, you spoke to the courtroom and the way the lawyers, just in terms of the headgear and stuff like that.
The wig,
right?
Yeah, that's joking.
But at the same time, they are just in a black gown, and from what I understand is that the black signifies purity, signifies justice.
Oh, that's beautiful to know. I thought black, as we know it, never speaks to anything pure. and nice.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the first time I'm hearing
Yeah,
that. Because we
that
hear
is
about
from
black
my-
market,
yeah.
blackmail, black everything. That's bad. Yeah, no, but I don't think so. You know, I really don't think so. I mean, it's the first time I'm hearing that. Really, you know, that the that is
Signifies
is worn
justice and purity.
in the courthouse signifies. You know, I think that's just. Look, when I used to be in England, one time I was in London, and I was as a youth, and I was in the city, and it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was totally taken up by the amount of people crossing the Westminster Bridge. Yeah, everybody in black. Everybody in black. Well, everybody seems to be in black. You know, again, it was because it's winter. Black is the color for winter, and it just seems to be most people in black. You know,
It is saying that black attract heat, so if it is winter, I guess they want to keep warm.
When in the winter is black people, is black outfit in a big way. But I think the law practice is deeply colonial. I mean, it's no mistake about that. I mean, even we here in the Caribbean who still refer to the House of Lords, the Privy Council.
Yes, yes.
You know, the Privy Council is an undemocratic group of people. You know, they are not elected in nowhere at all. They are nominated. They are hereditary peers, meaning if your father is a lord, you can become a lord. So there are some people who is in the House of Lords, but their brother is a vagabond who live over there in a mansion taking all the drugs, you know what I'm saying? But he's also referred to as a lord, you know, because the father was a lord, you know what I mean? And I say the Caribbean should really try to move really more towards the Caribbean Court of Justice as the final court, you know, so as to develop the jurisprudence of the court, you know, the trust, the experience of the court. Because you got to start somewhere, you know.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I know the Privy Council have a huge volume of experience and everything else. And again, this is the same thing we're talking about. We are mistrusting ourselves and putting our trust in still the slave master's hand, you know.
But at the same time, Naya, when we go to the Privy Council, you know, opposed to the CCJ, there's a cost, a disparity in cost in terms of, you know, one going to the CCJ opposed to one going to the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Well, I suppose it would be, yes, you know, I suppose it would be, but I mean, how many countries in the Caribbean have constitutionalized the CCJ? Just a few.
Yes.
Just a few, you know, and that to me says a lot about ourselves and the trust that we have developed in ourselves, you know, as a people, as you know, as ex-slaves, really, you know, because I mean, we have gone through a lot. I know, only less than 200 years from the plantation, yes, but
Do you think it comes back to our thinking, our mental state of mind? How do we feel about ourselves? Do we feel as if that we can adjudicate, you know, proper, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, I believe we feel that way, but what we have problems with is the ability to reach these individuals who will bring down the rulings, you know. So we feel like our government can pay off the court. We feel like our government can influence the decision of the court, you know. And that is, and once you got that kind of feeling, then there is a great mistrust in very important and fundamental issues, you know. And so we just don't trust ourselves, you know, in a general sense. I mean, the Privy Council is so overloaded, right? You have people have cases in the Privy Council for 4, 5, 6 years, still waiting the decision. And those guys up there just drink the beer and casual as nothing at all. And we are so much into what they say is right that when they make the decision, no one question it. No one's questioning it. You understand?
Isn't that
we see that
the final
happen
quote?
in the court case with Denzel Douglas. With the boundary case when he wanted to move and shift the boundary just a week before the election. No one questioned, the decision of the Privy Council.
But is it because that's the final quote?
Yeah, that could be a reason too, because there is nowhere else to turn. But if we all constitutionalize the CCJ, I'm sure they're going to still be, even though that will be the final court, there's still going to be questions and doubts and real hard set feeling as to the findings of the court. This issue may never settle. Maybe distance means something.
Possibly.
Because this ruling might just come from Trinidad or somewhere across the Caribbean, whereas this ruling come from across the Atlantic.
Is possibly no association.
No association at all. And so you see, it's all come down to the same thing we're talking about. The colonial mindset which we have. The mistrust that we have in our fellow men, in our brethren. Look at the Caribbean. Are we really working together here in the Caribbean? The model that's they have set up, is it really working? How much trade are we doing, in the Caribbean? But we still are trying to trade with Africa, but we can't trade with ourselves.
Amongst ourselves.
Such an impossible thing.
Even interregional travel. I think it was just yesterday, I heard on the news that I think it's Caribbean Airlines, I think it is, has pulled out of St. Kitts and Dominica. So, on the one hand, we are saying we need better linkage within the Caribbean region. But here is, a regional airline pulling out of St. Kitts and also Dominica.
There's no reason to travel across the Caribbean.
Why not?
For what?
For the experience, for you visit. Although we are similar, we are different. So
but the difference is not big enough.
So is there
gravity,
is there a reason?
The difference is not really evoking the gravity it takes to go anywhere. Really, first, it's very expensive.
I agree with that.
To go across the Caribbean.
I definitely agree.
You know what I mean? It's easier to go from here to Miami and then go to Jamaica. You know what I mean? Than to go directly to Jamaica.
That's true.
And Liat, let me tell you about Liat. Liat got to get serious. Liat is still playing massive games with the people and its passengers. You don't know what kind of games they're playing with the people. It's like they know they're not going to come on a meeting their schedule and they're not telling you till half an hour before your schedule. You understand? When they know long time, look, we're going to put up these people in a hotel in Antigua because we're going on to Guyana. I don't know. It looks like to go to the hotel is cheaper for Liat and make a run to Guyana and make some more money. And then everybody's schedule is just messed up totally. You understand? And that is what Liat is still playing today. Liat is still playing that today. My friends is going to Jamaica. Oh, they have to overnight in Antigua. That wasn't the schedule. The scheduled flight, they was to leave 4 o'clock for Jamaica. 8 o'clock, they're still in the airport until they find out. And sometimes they're smart. Right? They make sure that dinner don't serve, right? In the hotel which they're gonna send you. You understand? So you're hungry now. You understand? And so you reach the hotel 10 o'clock when the kitchen don't close, dinner don't serve. You understand? So the only thing they got to pay for, and they're not even telling you, is breakfast in the morning. You understand?
And it's scheduled to leave very early. 6 o'clock.
Yeah, you don't want you to come to the airport very early. You understand? So there's a lot of things going on with the Liat thing. It's a great mistrust with that. It's hard to travel in the Caribbean. it's very difficult to travel in the Caribbean, you know. And so
I still think that although it may be, difficult, I still believe that it's important for us, to have an idea to, to try to appreciate, each other's country within the Caribbean region. I think that there is much we can learn. As I said, it's very similar, and even here in the Leeward Islands and Windward Islands, the Les Antilles, even the accent. I mean, even here in Nevis, we in Gingerland speak differently, to persons maybe in St. James's. I would say colloquially, Abi. And those in the Newcastle area would probably say "aye."
there you go.
Yeah, because I went to school with some of them. So I always pick up that. We in England say "abi," they would say "aye." Slight differences and stuff like that. And even the as I said, the accent. You can probably tell someone from Dominica. Normally when they're talking, they would add a "we." We going tongue we.
Yeah, but and that's why I speak to the gravity that is really come about by the little differences is not strong enough. You still want to go to America, Canada, England, South America. You know what I'm saying? Central
to feel the difference in
America,
temperature.
to feel the difference in temperature, and the difference in culture. Caribbean culture is the same. Caribbean culture is the same throughout. You know what I mean? The cities might be downtown. Kingston might be different to downtown. Well, obviously, it's more hustle, bustle, and more things going on, activities here, there, and everything. Same thing in Barbados and everywhere. But you want to feel a different temperature. You want to feel the different culture.
Experience, no?
The different, have the different experience. In a big and organized city. Really, put it that way. But Africa has big cities, well organized, and just like America, that we are not. The information doesn't reach we. All we hear about Africa, pure suffering. Hunger and
they have some
starvation.
really beautiful places, Seychelles and those kind of places.
Well, every country in Africa have a big and beautiful city. I mean, Egypt and them places there, and then we are of the opinion that places like Egypt, and you just mentioned Morocco, Tunisia, and them places there, North Africa, because they are Muslim countries, we get the impression that they are not really Africa, but they are Africa, and I speak towards the spring revolution, what do they call it, the spring uprising, that took place in Tunisia and spread to Egypt, or they call it the Arab uprising. That is an African uprising. It's the Africa revolution. But we tend to believe because there's an Arab uprising is somewhere in the Arab world, put it that way, and that's how important religion is. It's just that the Muslim man enslaved the people from North Africa, you understand? Them English and French man enslaved the people from West Africa, and everybody take the piece of Africa, it looks like, you know what I mean? And we are down here now.
Now back to the core debate, and Rastafari, what Rastafari are locks, let me just say locks, persons with locks, that has come so far, because we are now seeing persons on television preaching with the hair braided, with locks and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it comes with freedom. As we see, as we go through the time and time goes onwards, people becoming more free. And
it become more acceptable.
Okay, let me take this, gentleman. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your panelists.
Good evening.
Interesting conversation. One of the things that I had an experience to go to the southern part of Africa, to South Africa and Zimbabwe back in 2017. And I was most taken back by the fact that all of the things that we normally see in the pictures of Africa and on the TV and all of that, you don't go downtown in Zimbabwe. I thought I was somewhere downtown New York City. People were outside selling along the sidewalk and things like that. And I kept telling all of my friends, I'm hoping that that's an experience that anybody that I know have, because it will shock you that what you're expecting to see of Africa, that's not what Africa is anymore. Africa is so, so different. And so listening to the gentleman here in this conversation, things have changed. So much have changed. One of the things I remember is when I left Nevis and went up to the States back in the early 70s, I went to high school for one more year up there. And I remember thinking, one of the things that's missing in our Caribbean schools is that they don't teach us enough about ourselves and our culture and our history. We learn about everybody else's and the world's history, but we don't learn enough about ourselves. And back when Honorable Malcolm Gishad was here, I remember having a conversation with him, and he spoke to the facts about, of course, tourism. And I said, Malcolm, we're not preparing these children for tourism. We are teaching them all of this book stuff in the schools, but we're not preparing them. I said, Four Seasons is here now. Are these children in their fourth form and fifth form being prepared for that mentality, for that workforce? How are we doing it? And he says, he said, tourism is our bread and butter. And I said, is it really? And he said, you always say that. You always say that to me. I said, because I don't believe that we don't behave like it is. We don't behave like it is. We don't cherish and we don't big up as much of our culture as we should. I think I'm seeing it a little bit more now. But we need to work on that and make our country the best, just like everybody else makes their country the best. The mango festivals, the music festivals. I wouldn't even say the music festival. One of the things that I am really, really excited about is the mango festival, because to me, that's truly Nevis. That brings out a lot of our culture in the foods and what's made from mangoes, the whole atmosphere on that weekend down at the Malcolm Gishad Park, and we need to push more of that. But like I said, I was calling him because going back and listening to these gentlemen, I'm smiling and I'm thinking, wow, for those who haven't been to Africa, I sure hope that everybody gets a chance to go to Africa. It's amazing what you see there, and it's not what you're thinking it is, because that's not what you see in the pictures and the movies and the TV presentations of Africa. That's not what you're accustomed to seeing when you truly get to Africa and see Africa. It's much more. It's much bigger than that. It's much different. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll continue listening.
Yeah, the caller is right. The caller is right. We've just been fed, a lot of, not always misinformation, but just showing you the unpleasant things.
What they want us to see.
What they want us to see, yes. About Africa,
But it begs why?
So some of the most beautiful cities you'll find in Africa. But I must say straight up, I've never been to Africa, but I've read, deeply, as a Rastafarian, we think and talk and, and research a lot about Africa. And I've lived with Africans, and so forth. And, a place like Egypt, there's no place in the world like Egypt, in terms of things to be seen, things to behold in terms of a historical perspective, and even in terms of modernness. Look, they have ladies in Kenya flying big jumbo jets.
Yes.
The massive
Especially
jumbo
Kenya,
jets.
yes.
You know what I mean? The geothermal facilities in Kenya are all run by female scientists. You get me? In fact,
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webber, and good evening to the panelists there. Good night.
Good evening.
right, so,
Following up on what the lady said, that, I mean, she has said nothing wrong, right? But is the people supposed to demand that? Because up to now, you will hear some people say they're not African, or they don't want to hear nothing about Africa. They don't want to this nothing about Africa. And we know that black people, we descendants originate out of Africa. You understand? So it's the people got to demand that. And when we let the politician them, just like we said that going into school and teach the black history and teach this and teach that. We will talk about it down here and talk about it in different forums. That they're supposed to teach black history in school, teach where we come from, teach where we foreparents come from. And this is the thing. But some of the people ignorant, we so colonized by the British and whatever colonize us, and so Americanized, that we don't see ourselves as one. And that's why even some of the African them will tell you that they're part of us neither. And I like how the lady speak for you, but still that we got to blame some of the leaders, the Caribbean leaders, and we got to blame our the school, the curriculum in the school, teaching us about this and teaching us about that. Those are the days, them going to be talking about cow jump moon, this and that, we really winky run to the tongue and all them kind of thing that. We learn that the school because they want to mislead us and and these are the things that we know we know better. We're supposed to think better and rally for better. And I believe that I'm an African descendant. My foreparents from Africa. As a black man. All right then. Nice program as usual. I was listening.
Some of the richest countries too are really African countries, and in terms of technology also.
oh yeah.
We we're looking at Africa, as the front runners. So there's so much to learn of and about Africa. And back on the local scene, I think it might have been the first caller who spoke to about the lack of history and our culture being taught in our schools, and I totally agree. And if we are saying that tourism is our bread and butter, and we must equip ourselves, to be a part of that market, to offer a service. What I understand is that persons, I suspect once upon a time, you could have just probably go and get a license and drive and taxi. I'm subjected to correction. But now you have to undergo, you have to do some tests, and you have to have to get a pass mark before you can actually become a taxi driver here in Nevis. And what I have understand also is that much of the testing is based on Nevision history. Because they expect you to know the history about Nevis in terms of certain historical sites, so you can give the tourists, the visitors, the correct information. And I am saying that we shouldn't wait until we reach out of school and go into that setting. This actually should be taught from primary school come straight through. So there probably would be some need to probably change the curriculum, adjust the curriculum, so it could probably have Nevision history I believe that we once did Caribbean history. We learned about certain things in the Caribbean. I think one of the books was something to do with Sparrow and something like that. But what about our local history? How I'm almost certain that most of our youngsters, we do not know much about El Comedio Willett, and that he was the first Division who played for the West Indies and the first Leeward Islander who played for the West Indies.
Roger, might I ask you and Naya a question?
Sure.
This history that you want us to learn and teach and so on, having done that, what must we do with it?
Well, this is what I'm saying, Webbo. If we claim that the tourism is our bread and butter, we must learn of our history. We are given tours, so that is going to translate into the tourism product, so to speak. And of course, in my opinion, that could have a direct spin-off in terms of how much if we get more tourism. If someone finds that you do not know what you are saying, because maybe they would have probably, unless if I goes to the museum and found something different to what you told them on a tour, then they may not have that confidence in you.
Okay. So, can you also utilize it? So, in that case, you're just utilizing it for like a poem then, or recitation?
No, I would not say that, but I kind of believe.
Well, walk with me. The question I want to ask you is, when you learn all of this history, who we came from, where we came from, and so on, that's part of the history you're talking about, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And slavery and all that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should it impact us and shape who we are as a people?
It should.
Okay. And so, when we understand that, for instance, with lands, should it affect us in terms of how we go forward with that?
Yes, I think to a certain degree.
Okay. To what degree?
Well, it is us as a people, who would hold, beside, to what extent.
Well, I think knowing our history is first and foremost would bring us to that consciousness that we do better. We won't make the same mistake twice. We would protect what our forefathers have fought, ardently to achieve, to attain, and so it's not just something, as you put it, Webber, like a recitation, where you take them to Cockle Church and then over by the Anglican Church and then down by the Bard Stream, and you're repeating the same thing every day to every tourist. I think it should impact you first as an individual as it relates to guidance going forward,
And then when it impacts you as an individual, as guidance, then all of a sudden we begin to shape our society differently. You agree with that?
Yes.
So that's the debate I would like to hear too.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's great conversation there, Webber, because as we've been affected by situations where the land issue throughout the Caribbean is major, because as I said much earlier, we have people coming around as in investors, but really they are basically trying to get the lands once given back to us after slavery. People like Llewellyn Bradshaw have fought for. I mean, in today's world, we shouldn't be talking much about crown lands anyway, but I think we have a lot to protect. Well, first, our freedom must be protected. And we should be able to see, even around corners going forward, that we don't give up the things that is necessary for us to advance and our generation to come to advance, because we may think it's all right with we. And I had that conversation just yesterday with somebody, they're not in from here, they're from England. And they're basically saying, well, if the people then want to come and give us work, who cares if they take the whole of the southern side of the island? And I thought that was wrong, really, with all respect due, because it's like, so you're just really on about yourself and what is happening here and now. Just the other day, you may have gone to Prospect. 30 years ago, I buy a piece of land over there, pure bush and kusha, nobody around at all. Now you go over there, you can't even find a spot to live. So there's an advancement taking place, and it's going east, west, north, and south. And so the decisions we make today should really be influenced by our history. And
so, well, let me take this first, Naya. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Webbo, thank you for taking my call again. Listening to Naya just now reminded me of what I've always felt. I'm not sure that not only in the school but parents, right, teaching our children about who we really are and where we came from. One of the things I remember, again, going to school in Detroit back in the 70s, everybody wanted to know where I came from, and the next question that followed that was, what part of Jamaica is that? Where in Jamaica is that? Because from the moment you say you're from the Caribbean or you're from the West Indies, people assume that you're from Jamaica. And I think one of the reasons why that happens, and it's something I admire about Jamaicans, they're very proud of their country. No matter where they are, where they're living, there's a mark of Jamaica. Back in Detroit, up until this day, there's a carnival there every year in August, and the Jamaicans control it. There's a very popular Jamaican nightclub. There are activities that go on that's controlled by the Jamaicans. Yes, they're a larger country, and yes, there are more of them, but they are very, very proud of who they are, and they talk about their history. A lot of us from other parts of the Caribbean, maybe we're not talking about our history is because we don't know enough about it. And for the person who said to him, I think Naya said the person was from England and they're saying, oh, they just want a job. Well, guess what? Had they have parents who explained to them the legacy they were trying to leave, because a lot of the lands that people are trying to take from us now were worked hard for by our parents and grandparents. And a lot of us don't know anything about that because we weren't told. The parents that came after weren't told. So we don't know. We as parents need to talk more and share more with our children to get them to understand and develop the pride in who they are as a people. And that's one of the things that we have to work on here. Not only from a tourism point of view, but for us and our children and our grandchildren. My parents, I had parents who spoke to us and told us, especially my father, and I learned from that in spending time with my son and teaching him. And even though he doesn't live here, he spent his childhood years here. So he has the feel of where he came from and understands where he came from when he's out there all over the world. And that's what we all have to be working with each other on, with our children. We can't always leave it up to the schools or the teachers, but we as parents, we have as the guardians in the home and in each other, we need to be sharing with each other the pride of who we are and as a people. That's what we got to work on. And, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys have been paying much attention. The government of St. Kitts have now reached out into Nigeria and Africa. And Nigeria has the equivalent of Hollywood. They call it Nollywood over there, where they make films and movies. They're going to be coming here, I think, in June or July to make movies here. They took a plane load of people the other day over there, and they got a lot of licks for that, and I think in part they should, because it needed to explain to us as a people what is happening when our government picks up that kind of money and does that type of thing. We, as the others that are left behind, need to understand the goal they're trying to achieve. The peace airlines that comes into Antigua and Barbados and other Caribbean airlines, how much do we know of that? Because it landed in St. Kitts. It flew directly from Nigeria into St. Kitts and brought a plane load of people there and took a plane load of our people from St. Kitts over to Nigeria. All of those things, a lot of times we have in the news the things that don't make sense, the things that are not really teaching us to make us a better people. It's unfortunate, but it is. All we hear about is the ugly part of life and the crime. What are we doing to really make our country and us as a people a better people? That's what we need to work on. Thank you so much.
You're correlated so right in every way. As a student going to Charlestown Secondary School, I was a history student, and we learned a lot about the bigger countries, as if the history book was written for the bigger countries. The smaller islands, the smaller countries was never highlighted much in these history books, really. So yes, we read a lot about Jamaica, even Trinidad, and even Guyana, but we never, came across much about the smaller islands at all. And so we are left to really pick up the bits and pieces as we go forward about even St. Kitts. I mean, just the other day we've been hearing about the revolt in St. Kitts, which now is a public holiday, and so forth, and so to a great extent, I think there's a lot more to be done, but not just for gratification. I believe history is real. I believe it really should influence the mindset of the people. It should really propel the people to be stronger, more steadfast, more objective towards what they're on about. And I think the Caribbean as a whole, the history should be making leaders especially make decisions seriously in favor and in protection of the people of the Caribbean, not to be short-sighted, because we are part of a political culture and political scenery where every 5 years there is an election, and it looks to me like that has influenced the decision-making process to a great extent, as it relates to what is to be done or what should be done. And I think a lot of time we find ourselves in problems simply because we are trying to make something happen within that 5-year period so that we can be re-elected, and that something sometimes is not really good for the future of the island. I mean, one writer said that what is good for the people is not always good for the island. you know, and what is good for the island is not always good for the people, you know. We try and figure that out, you know. But to me, I think, and the same caller that was just online make mention of something very serious, the Mango Festival, because it was today. I drove with a friend to dress up, and everywhere it's mango running in the street, man. Everywhere it's mangoes running in the street, you know. Everywhere you go, and she said to me, in my country, boy, we just don't see this. You have to walk a distance to really go and find a mango tree. But in this island, mango knock dog. You understand? How long we will be seeing this without somebody, without a government really decide to do something with this excess of mangoes that we have, you know? Again, we are talking about history, but we got to change the direction at times, you know? Everybody want to talk about tourism, you know? What about manufacturing? You understand? What about using what we got in abundance? Mango is what we got in abundance. You know, we have so much that the monkeys can't even eat half all. You understand?
True.
We have so much. So what are we doing? Just the other day, I'm reading in Burkina Faso, the military leader there, he have put in place a mango factory. And the way it's been said, I wonder, well, it doesn't sound like it's a major difficult thing to do. Maybe it is more difficult than it's been said. But what are we doing about things like that? The Mango Festival is a good thing, yes. But what are we doing in terms of every day you go down by the Chinese and up by the other supermarkets and up so and buy mango juice? You understand? But we got mangoes here rolling down the street from since I born, from since my mother born, from since my grandmother born. So what happened?
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening again, Webber. Good evening. Yeah, good evening again, Webber. Good evening. Now, Webber, I mean, now,
Yeah.
up to today, I was in Bastille, and we had the same conversation. That why some business person with money or the government don't try to make a mango drink or something. You know what I mean? Because Webber, I think it's got a lot of mango, you know. Almost everybody got a mango tree in their yard. Everybody crafted different mango trees. And up to today we were talking about the same thing. You know? We got to be creative. We got sufficient mango. We ain't got to bring in certain juice. Because this will do in our country. Somebody will get a job. In our factory, mango factory or something to make a mango juice or whatever. And this is the thing. We got tamarind again. 20 tamarind season coming. All these things we could create our own local drink. Right? You got guava. We got many things here. You got star apple and all these things here. You see them drop a gun waste. Some of them go by somebody they say they can't get themselves. And these things could make a juice, you could make the one local drink. And these things that could sustain our health. Because these is local things, they ain't going to process nothing. This is natural local juice we going to drink. You understand? And can't you, unless somebody come and see that. Whether tax rate is good, you know. Tax rate is very important, right? But I do not believe that those in government and whosoever really concerned, they don't study us. They don't really take these things serious. We depend on so much of foreign entertainment, foreign. And we got the things in here, we could get a factory. Even if we got to bring in a company to help us, to start us, to produce these things. All right then, good night, gentlemen. Nice program as usual.
Anybody ever noticed that most people with the greatest ideas always suggesting that somebody else should do it?
Yes, but that's how it works.
Oh, that's how it works.
In many cases.
Right, and then in most of the cases, nothing get done.
Well, the truth is, maybe the ideas are not feasible.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they are not heard by the right people.
Okay.
You know, but sometimes the idealist is not the one who put things into reality.
Okay.
You know, in many cases. And that's why they have little things like invention fair, where a big company come in and buy this little thing that you see somebody have and look at it and see how much it can work in terms of marketing and solve a problem. Because really, when you bring things, when you invent something, is basically, you know, solving or meeting a need, human need. You know, and it depends on the extent of that need. Sometimes is very great, but the idea of mango on Nevis cannot be pushed aside, really. But the question is whether or not it has been pushed aside, or it has not been given the attention that it should have. But it looks like in this modern time an absolute waste to see mangoes rolling down the streets here. You know,
I think one of the problems perhaps might be storage, and I think I can recall maybe a year or two ago, maybe even 3 years, the government they were actually buying mangoes. The mangoes had to be of a certain quality. I think it might have been maybe $1 a pound or something like that. You know, because I think they would have had the capacity to store and the facility to store those mangoes. Most of us in our various homes, we just have a fridge, with a small compartment that freeze. So I believe that we have to mangoes are actually seasonal. It is seasonal, and sometimes when the mango season finish, we really yearn and really want a mango, and if we could get a mango, personally I'm not quite sure what the quality would look like or would be, if the mango is frozen and eaten, but I am sure, as the caller would have suggested, we can utilize those mangoes for mango puree and other mango, whatever else we can do with mango. And I believe too, this is one of the reasons why the mango festival, would have come into being in the first instance. To the creativity and how much we can use mango differently in various dishes and stuff like that, sauces and stuff like that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's now a flavored mango pepper sauce.
Yeah.
So mangoes could be used in a wide variety of different things, and not just eat, so to speak, just like that. But I think too that we have to try to find a way how we can store, because after maybe August there's no mango as much as we have now.
The caller spoke to local juice. We make local juices.
Of course.
We make guava, we make passion fruit, we make all kind of local juice. People put them in the plastic, and a lot of that is being sold. But what we are really talking about is canning.
Yes.
What we call canning, or putting it into a seal bottle, and try to export it across boundaries. That's quite possible, because many of the Caribbean islands doesn't have half as much mango as any mango at all. You know what I mean? I think the whole,
and the quality of mango idea, sir.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of canning or bottling mangoes in a conceal and a seal way, it's not a bad idea as far as I check. I mean, I was a youth going around with my dad when we set up the Juicy Factory. It was juicy factory, a factory making juice.
Of course, I know the juice factory. Of course, I know about the juice factory right there.
Because I used to go there with my dad, and we do a whole heap of welding, and we were instrumental in setting it, in helping the whole process. So, and that was way back then. That was in the 70s, So, what's so distant, really, about having something to process mango? Really, what is so distant about it? I mean, is it the investor, or what's the drawback towards this fruit that we have yearly rolling down the street from all angles? You understand, mangoes, and we cannot come up with a can or a sealed bottle, breaking boundaries as it relates to marketing, and have Nevis mangoes on the shelf.
I think that is quite possible. I believe that it's just the will, the will of the people, who probably want to go, would be looking into that aspect of production, and I believe that it can go a long way. When we look at mango as it is now, there are so many mangoes passing through our ports being exported, and as you correctly said, there are lots of mangoes probably in the Caribbean, but I believe that the quality of mangoes that come from Nevis, far exceed the quality that we have in the region. And so people, in my opinion, they look towards Nevis for that quality of mango. And I believe if we have that quality, if we were to manufacture, I believe that the end product would also be of a high quality.
Yes, but the idea of drinking a cool drink from a refrigerator, can seal mangoes, is quite different from just grabbing a fruit, and that's what I'm thinking about, really. A well sealed packaged product, Nevis mangoes, and as I say, breaking boundaries regionally and probably going beyond. I just can't. Well, it's about money and the investment. Is it about knowledge or the technology, or money? Because it cannot be about the technology, because
technology is basically there.
It's there.
It's there.
Okay, so it's really about the feasibility. Money expended and revenue gain. Okay, and of course that would involve marketing, and the prospect of marketing regionally, of course, would be the first step. Okay, when you look right across the Caribbean and you're looking at everybody's standing freezers in all these, you would come across a mango juice now and again. Come from where? Chile,
Thailand
somewhere. But the Caribbean is a mango place. Nevis is a mango place. You understand?
If the coconut water, you see Thailand and stuff like
from
that.
From Thailand. Aloe's juice from Texas. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about leadership, we're talking about foresight, we're talking about vision. I mean, what is really lacking? Are we limiting ourselves?
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good night, gentlemen. Very interesting hearing this topic tonight. I usually hear talking about mangoes and mango festival and so on, and often I'm inclined to call in and give my opinion about it, because it is something that we have seen over the years. I remember, like in 1960, I used to go to Hamilton with my father, and the mangoes are there, probably even more prevalent than they are today. Mangoes upon mangoes. and we talk about we're going to have a company come into Nevis to scan them, to do this, to do that, to do the other. And that is back from 1960 I'm talking about. And today we're hearing the same thing. We have seen people who know how to do these things come here. Japan, China, and so on. And we have not been able to encourage them or convince them to come and set up a factory to do something with these mangoes. We bring them here to do things that we are doing, to have retail shops and other things of that nature that individuals and kitchens do normally. But the things that they are experts on, that they could do, we don't get them here doing it. At least we have not seen anything. A few years ago, we were hearing about the agro-processing plant in that place of the Prospect, offering, buying mangoes and so on. You see mangoes and you say, okay, but this is good, but we go there, and no, we're not accepting those. We're not accepting those. We only accept a certain type of mangoes. And then the mangoes that we see rolling down the street, as Naya says, they still continue rolling down the street. I have a few mango trees in my yard, and to tell you the truth, sometimes I count hundreds of mangoes on the ground, and I won't even touch them. I won't even look at them because I'm not going to eat them. And I don't know why, we cannot do something about them. Since we have a processing plant, we have other places that could do certain things like these mangoes and use the mangoes, purposefully. But we're not doing it. And as I said, that has been there probably over 50 years now. And nothing is being done. I believe the locals, we satisfied with 2 or 3 or 4 different types of mangoes, and the others mean absolutely nothing to us. Sometimes I have mangoes, good Amapali mangoes, I bring them in town, and I say, okay, well, let me give them to people. Put them on there. May or not, make the mango home. That is the responsibility from people when it comes to mangoes. Good Amapali mangoes, good grafted mangoes.
Caller, I could say something?
Yeah.
If you bring them and give me, I guarantee you won't tell you, me no want none of that home.
Well, I've tried that before, but it's worked.
What do you mean?
Accepted.
Oh, okay. So, well, you must say that too.
Yeah, you have accepted.
Don't just, okay.
But normal.
So your problem is you don't know who to give.
Well, sometimes I don't have. I put them, then advertise. People come get mangoes. Come, me no want a mango. Me no want a mango. Me the mango each in my yard. And this all happen at the same time every year. After the season is over, then we back to square one. We don't have any mangoes until the year comes on again. But I don't know. As I said, over 50 years, and we have not been able to get a factory here to do something with these mangoes, to can them or to make drinks out of them. I don't know if it will ever happen. But, the potential is there. But I'm concerned about the mangoes that nobody eats. They chop up the tree and they're there, endlessly on the ground. Nobody picking them up. Even sometimes the animals refuse to eat them. Because it seems the monkeys come in the tree, they're going to the Amapali mango tree, they're going to go after the mango tree. But these other mangoes are dressed up, nobody picking them up. Not even the monkeys, the donkeys eating them. And other Caribbean islands are going to the same situation like us. Once upon a time, we had, I go to St. Croix fairly often. So that's the time they say, okay, mangoes from Nevis are accepted. And, a lot of mangoes will go down there from Nevis. But now, St. Croix have just as much Amapali mango trees as Nevis. So, don't find the volume going through as before. And, it's a situation that I hope will correct itself. But I don't see anything happening as far as somebody coming here and putting on a factory plant and making good use of the mangoes, especially the mangoes that we don't usually eat on a regular basis. So that's my little point of view for tonight, and it's good that the Mangoes Festival is here, and I'm sure that a lot of people will enjoy it. But I think I had enough mangoes in my life. I don't really show much interest in the mangoes these days. So, thank you very much. But a very good program.
Okay. You see this guy? This guy is a friend of mine. Almost like a brother. But to me, he have the same thing that I encounter all the time. He is explaining a problem. I try to tell the man how to solve the thing. The man just brushed me off. That's my life story. That's why everybody else can talk, but we do talk that get result. That's what. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
No, I'm going to be quick. Do you know that mango is a delicacy? Or you see when the girlies them come first here, or you see the girlies them do mango sauce, the green one them, they do a sauce with them and put them against the food and use it as relish. So all them things mango could do. A lot of girlies in there say, I don't know if you ever see it. I don't know if you ever see it going about in a girl that's on the panelist. But the girlies use mango as a delicacy, like a sauce, the green one, and do a sauce with the gravy down and eat it just like a relish. All right then.
Okay.
So, do you think it's because the leaders are not trying to get someone on board or invite investors in that line of investment?
Well, to be truthful, I cannot say, but what I can say, I am sure that this program here tonight would probably open minds and open eyes into the prospect of manufacturing mangoes or canning mangoes.
One would hope so. Because the caller said when he was small and he's about 90 in the 1960s, it's the same thing was on about, and no one have really make that breakthrough. And so it makes me wonder when the government goes around the world looking for investors, are they just trying to get hotel and things like that, or they're really looking into such possibilities of using such a resource like mango to do something?
I believe that we do not have much manufacturing industry here in St. Kitts Nevis and more so in Nevis, and I believe that if we were to get a manufacturing a factory to manufacture, not manufacture but to process mangoes, I believe that it would be a good. I believe that is something that can sustain, albeit that mango is a seasonal fruit, because as the caller rightfully said, there are so many varieties. I understand that there's 40 plus variety of mangoes in Nevis, and really and truly, when you look around, generally people only speak about the poly mango, the grafted, and the long mango to a certain extent.
These mangoes,
you don't hear much about what we call shushu. We don't hear much about the pluff gut, the roan ball and stuff like that.
They're mangoes, man.
And they are mangoes, albeit that is a different flavor and a different taste. But maybe we in Nevis, maybe we are spoilt. I can recall a few years ago I saw two persons, a female and a male, and they were walking around, and I saw them with a shut up and just picking up mangoes and eating, and these are mangoes that we as divisions refuse, do not eat for some reason. And I was just taken aback and amazed, and you could actually see them walking and eating, and it's like, boy, this got to be heaven. So sometimes it's because of the way we as divisions probably we are spoiled to the mango, because we have abundance of poly mangoes and grafted mangoes that we probably refuse the others, and we don't look at the others as we almost look at them as outside child. And interestingly, there's a mango that we call bastard pali. So we have to look at mango as mango, and we have to. I believe, as I said earlier, it is something that I believe that could sustain, because once we have the proper storage, there's so many mangoes.
We gotta look at the mango as a resource.
Yeah. And it's a cheap resource. So when you're looking, you add value, and you necessary packaging, and you have a product that could be profitable. and no doubt would be profitable, because as I said, mangoes would be very, very cheap. I know if that is to come on a market on stream, everybody would be selling the mangoes, and rightfully so. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what I am saying, mangoes, there are so much mangoes that, you know, once there's proper storage, we'll get mango all year round. The factory will be able to run all year round.
But what about, let's start by making mango rum?
That's an idea.
because
everybody drink rum. Most people, and you know, if even in the soca, in the music industry, it appears as if for you to have a good song, so to speak, you must sing about rum. You know,
Yes,
rum is always promoted, and you'll get it promoted through song. So that
to me, it's some kind of failure. I feel like we've been failing, not being able to do something with the fruit called mango in English.
I mean, I was really taken aback when the
Apart
caller
from
said,
the festival, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we really should be.
when the caller said it is from since the 1960s, this is some 60 plus years on. And based on what the caller said, they were talking about people coming into to can mangoes and stuff like that. And I am saying, if we have been speaking to that, you know, more than a half century now, you know, it's something must be in action. Something should, some motion or something should be in action for it to come to
The
fruition.
wrong tree.
It's not a mango tree.
No. I mean, government's going out there looking for investors. As I said, we're probably backing off the wrong tree. In a sense, they're probably asking for, you know, the wrong things. I mean, every little thing counts. It can be a small industry, you know, a small manufacturing plant to manufacture mango juice. You know, it may not be thinking about employing 500 people and bringing plane loads of people and taking all over land. But at least people would be selling mango. Maybe people would sell mango for 10 cents each. It's so much mangoes, you know, understand? But at least, you know, things are turning over, you know, and needs have a produce. And needs have a product.
But,
you know,
my idea is, even if you was to sell mango for 10 cents each, there are so many mangoes that you're going to make thousands of dollars.
Yeah, make a lot of money.
By selling a mango for
sending
10
it
cents.
into, you know, a place that's going to manufacture something out of it.
Well, let me ask this. And we basically out of time, but the same mango festival, not festival, but the mango crop and stuff like that, and the suggestions that have been put on the table and so on and so forth. Why is it only the people who we are suggesting should do it? Why are we waiting on only them to do it? Why not me? They have a song called Why Not Me. Maybe I should drop it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that individuals like you and I, you know, utilize it in the various sources. You know,
No, you're not working with me. This lovely idea of large-scale operation for the mangoes and how much money it can make, etc. And somebody ought to come in here and do this. So, listen tomorrow, I'm going to drop the song, Why Not Me?
And that's a very good
Why
question,
not we?
Webbo. That's a very good question.
So,
you know,
so
why not me?
Okay, so next thing you might tell me then is a very good question, and then there are more questions than answers.
And then you see nothing to move.
You made the show.
That's the last word.
Really,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to talk off here to him and saying it's really something, you know. I mean, why not me? I better get up and start do some research and try and make some
That's
contacts
much better. This program repeats tomorrow following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On Demand. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening for Government at Work at 8 o'clock. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views